Phil here from Brim Data with a quick example where Zooey Insiders helped me out recently. This big JSON file holds the config of a Grafana dashboard from an old archive project I was reviving. I was trying to remember the details of some Go memory stats from Prometheus metrics that I'd charted in this dashboard. And of course, I could do simple searches in my editor or grep it at the shell to find stuff. But at over 2,000 lines long, it's tougher to piece apart where things fit into the complex hierarchy of this object. So let's drag it into Zooey Insiders instead. Now, since JSON is one of the auto-detected formats supported by Zed, I can load it by just dragging it into the app, and it's immediately put into a new pool in the Zed lake that's always running behind Zooey. Once I click to query the pool, I'm brought into a new query session that will automatically log the history of all the Zed queries I perform on this data. So since this is such a deeply nested object, the default table view doesn't show much. And while the table view is great for individual records, this inspector view is ideal for picking apart these complex hierarchies. So with a single click of the expand button, we can get to a scrollable picture of the full object. But since we're looking for something specific, we can start with it collapsed and expand the parts that interest us. And it doesn't take much browsing to recall that the panels area is where these metric configs lie. And with that, we can add a Z query to isolate this. The over operator will allow us to traverse just the values within that level of the object. So now I'm quickly reminded of all the config that makes up each dashboard panel, but I can't recall which one has my memory stats. Now, Zed has a grep function that I can add to my Zed pipeline to quickly isolate just the panel configs that mention the word Go. In fact, the Zed language has useful shorthands so that in cases like this where the word I'm searching for doesn't overlap with language keywords, I can just type the word I'm searching for and that gets me to the same place. So now I can expand and look closely at the panel config structure, and seeing that the targets area is just another array that references my metric names, I can tack on another over operator to isolate just that part. And now that we've isolated some simpler records, we could also peek back at our table view, and now we see this data in columns. And if I wanted to isolate just the metric names, I can use the cut operator. And then finally, if I'd like to just export this data that we've isolated, we've got our choice of formats. And so here's a CSV, and you can just open that up in other tools if you want. Note that if any of the variations we'd tried in the Zed didn't show us what we wanted, it's easy to go back to previous steps or click a specific query in the saved session history. So that's just a quick look at a few operations to get you started. And for more information on getting started with Zooey Insiders, just click the video link in the lower right. So we'll be back soon with more quick tips. See you then.